Anyway, from that perspective of seeing everyone as a gift, seeing the image of God in each child and each kid, that then shapes our approach.
Yes.
So we're talking about parenting approaches. Now, I mean, I haven't been a parent, but I've talked to a lot of parents, and I've seen a lot of kids who have parents, since I think every kid has a parent. But so you see a lot of different things play out. You see some things that you're like, whoa, that's something seems to be working really well there. And then you see other things that you're like, whoa, something's a little off there. So I kind of categorize it into like 3 approaches that I've seen.
Okay.
One approach, let's say it's kind of the control freak, overprotective, because I mean, I think we do have a call to protect our kids, but overprotective, hovering. Well, put it like this, like an image would be like, imagine you're sitting by a window. This approach would be closing the blinds.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit more fear-based, like the world is bad out there. Culture is bad. You're going to lose your soul.
Yeah.
Kind of feel. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but sometimes we can have that. And it's kind of like my kid's not going to have a cell phone until they're 18. Again, exaggerating, but there can be approaches like that where it's even older teens, pretty controlled or very protective, almost too much for what's appropriate to each age group. Because as you're accompanying a person, they're going through different stages of their life development. You want to help them grow in their freedom to make good choices out of love. And helping a 5-year-old do that is different than helping a 13-year-old do that, different than helping a 17-year-old do that. And so the approach you take needs to kind of correspond to that. If I'm controlling and deciding everything for them, especially for the like teenage years, there's not really the space for them to be able to learn to freely opt.
Yeah.
And sometimes, even though it's painful for us, part of freedom is falling. And I'm not saying recommend, okay, here we go, let's experience everything and fall and sin and all that. But not every fall is necessarily a sin either,
Yeah.
So just the experience of, life is messy. You can't protect a kid from everything. And that approach, I haven't seen always very successful. I've seen a lot of parents try it, haven't seen it very successful in their kids. A second approach that sometimes I've seen is kind of, if you're sitting by that window, it's like, instead of closing the blinds, you're like, open the window and kick the kid out and be like, try it. You're a kid. Enjoy life. It's the happiest time of your life.
It's like the other extreme.
Yeah, it's the other extreme. Yeah. But it's kind of like boys will be boys or kids will be kids. And it's like an excuse to, or like kind of closing the blind eye to what's happening. I even had a parent tell me kind of, in other words, like, my angel would never do that. And I'm like, wake up.
Like, well, she or he did.
She or he did. So, but kind of the parent was a little like unaware of or not willing to kind of see how much their child actually was struggling. So that kid was just kind of like doing whatever. And from an approach perspective and like seeing the kid, that I haven't seen that really work either. And can be pretty, it's almost like the kid reads it as, my parent doesn't care, because it's like so open and kind of try all this. So do they even know? Do they care? Do they know what's going on in my life? So that can be kind of misread by a kid. So those two approaches I wouldn't recommend. Haven't really seen them work. Based on looking at the person as a gift and as this little person, whatever they are, your 7-year-old, your 12-year-old, your 16-year-old, is a gift and is made in the image and likeness of God. The approach that I've seen to be most kind of fruitful and seem even most appropriate for who we're talking about is an accompanied approach. So back to that window image, it would almost be like having like a window seat where there's space for you and your kid to be looking out together. You're You're not closing everything so they're unaware of things. You're not also opening it and kicking them out and being like, try it. But you're sitting with them and facing the craziness of reality together. And that's way more involved.
Yeah.
It implies a lot more for a parent because it implies a lot of time. It implies a lot of awareness of what's going on, a lot of trial and error, a lot of taking advantage of the opportunity of the moment. So it requires a lot of availability. It requires flexibility because it's kind of like what's going on right now and how do I walk with this child in that and help them learn through that.
Yeah.
So I guess from what I have seen generically, right, as far as like parenting approaches, I think I've seen that one to be the most promising, most challenging, but the most beautiful too.
So speaking of parenting, you look at the Gospels and how Jesus did that with them, because your vocation as a parent, it's towards your spouse and your kids, right? And the work is part of that, because I'm thinking like, because the busyness of life, or if you have like 20 kids, I'm just kidding, I don't know if anyone has 20 kids, but you have a lot of kids. Like maybe the first one you were doing that, and then the second one you were a little more protective or whatever, and then suddenly like number 10 is like, yeah, whatever, just go, like we get tired. The big question that I had, I kind of answered it in my brain already, but anyway, where can parents find kind of that support or that reminder or that whatever? Parents need to be accompanied too, right?
Yeah, totally agreed. I was going to circle back to something you were just saying, because we can get tired. It's tiring.
It is tiring.
But the cool thing is that it's not only you accompanying. They say it takes a village. They say it takes a village. And I think good thing, the ultimate one who's like really forming and helping us is God himself. But then even siblings can accompany a younger sibling, or you can it's important to have other adults involved in your family, be it aunts and uncles, a good priest, consecrated youth minister, a good teacher, people who can also do that can be present and part of the process, part of the journey, part of the craziness, you know, the messiness at times. Yeah. So I would say that, and I don't know, it motivates me a lot to really reflect on Jesus and how he does that. So to answer your question about how do parents do that, I mean, I definitely think having other people that can support you and accompany you is very important. If that be spiritual guidance, if that be spiritual friendships, if that be a close friend, if that be a priest, if that be a consecrated, if that be a mentor, you know, that parents have what they need as well. And then I think the ultimate accompanier is Jesus. Excuse me. The ultimate accompanier is Jesus. So in our efforts to accompany each other and our kids and the kids we're working with, Jesus is the first one who is accompanying them, who trusts in them, who loves them, who sees them as gift, who stays with them in the Eucharist, kumpanis, with sharing bread, accompaniment. Yeah. And he does that for each of us and each of you as parents, because he is accompanying you in accompanying them. And it's an accompaniment fest, really. But how beautiful is that? That Jesus promised we'd never be alone. Yeah. And that he'd walk with us. And he didn't put conditions on that. He didn't put, you know, if you're doing it right, then I'll accompany you. If you're having to, you know, the perfect family, then I'm there. You know, he didn't put conditions. He kind of gave a love and a promise of his presence always. So before all else for parents, it's just that prayer with Jesus And not only praying for your kids, but allowing yourself to be loved and accompanied by Jesus. Because then he shares with you his mission, which is all of our kids, like walking and accompanying other people who, first and foremost, for a parent, it's your spouse and kids. When you take a vow of chastity, you have a type of availability and readiness to be available to do that for anyone who God puts in your path. But which is, I think, the joy, like you were saying, of the complementarity of the vocations, that we can be that support for each other. But I guess I just didn't want to jump over the fact that Jesus is the first one to accompany and accompanying us, each in our own vocation, state of life, and mission.
Yeah. No. Yeah, a family that has the Eucharist at the center of their household. I mean, not literally, unless you're one of those. I'm just kidding. But that, when you have Jesus at the center, like, whether it's easy or not, like, things move forward and there's peace, right? So
here's a shout out to Father Jaime. I always tell Father, thanks for bringing us Jesus.
Anytime.
How cool is that? That we can have priests, such good priests. So good. So
yeah,
good.
Those other priests are awesome.
No, you too, Father.
I'm just figuring it out.
You too, Father. You too.
Thank you, Maria. See, that's why I come here, because she affirms me in priesthood.
We're accompanying each other.
Yes, I affirm you in also bringing Jesus in a different way.
Yes, we each bring Jesus in our own way.
Yeah, so